Leroy Jenkins. It's Monday, December 23rd, 2013. I'm Jimmy Principex.
And I'm Trey Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 55. Your last call for tech news of the week tonight. Jimmy owns the internet. Sydney has the night off. And I have turned the corner on internet privacy. We start tonight with the new tune being sung about spying on the internet. This has been a big week for the pushback against NSA spying. There were 3 stories of note here, so stick with me through this epically long intro. First up, tech executives, including Marissa Myers of Yahoo, Tim Cook of Apple, Eric Schmidt of Google, Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook, and senior executives from the likes of Cisco and other players in the tech industry met with Obama this week, or actually technically last week, since we had a whole bunch of recording problems. We were recording this on Monday. Yay.
In this past week.
So they met with Obama. I think the idea originally was to talk about how they could help with healthcare.gov. What it turned into, according to senior White House officials, speaking out of turn, the discussion centered on the repercussions of the government's internet surveillance. The basic thesis by these tech executives seemed to be that spying hurt the internet as a whole and hurt U.S. companies' ability to gain market share in cloud enterprises overseas. To choose a choice quote to kind of summarize what was going on, a tech executive is reported to have said, "What the hell are you doing? Are you really hacking into the infrastructure of American companies overseas? The same American companies that cooperate with your lawful orders and spend a lot of money to comply with them to facilitate your intelligence collection?" According to these officials, Obama seems to be considering all angles in weighing whether or not to take their advice. That sounded like a positive discussion, but that's not all. U.S. District Court Judge Richard Leon ruled that the NSA program that collects telephone calls made to and from the United States may be unconstitutional, which we've been saying for a while, based on, guess what? Fourth Amendment protections against unlawful search and seizure. However, this injunction is not final because it's been put on hold pending appeals by, guess what, the U.S. government. But this could have major implications for NSA spying and collection abilities in the long term. In other news, the panel of intelligence experts convened by Obama to review intelligence collection procedures issued their recommendations, which actually called for restrictions on intelligence collection. Particularly, they called for restriction on how cell phone metadata is handled, that it actually be handled by the carriers themselves and gotten through specific court orders. Wow.
What a novel concept.
Also, they recommended that the FISA intelligence courts actually be an adversarial court, like all other courts, where there's an advocate arguing against the government and the government making their case. So it kind of looks like a normal court of law with like actual litigation. Marvelous concept that might be. Now, these are recommendations that, again, Obama can weigh over with all the other things he's thinking about. So these are a lot of stories, and each of these, honestly, could be news stories of their own. But with all of this, have we turned the corner on the fight for privacy?
Yeah, I think that when you have major tech companies that are being cited in the press for having, coming out to Obama and saying, this is ridiculous. What the hell are you doing? I think that when the companies that you are relying on to enforce a lot of your laws are asking you the question of or not even asking you the question, telling you that
what the
your
hell are
practices,
you doing?
what you are doing to them is bad for their business, on an international scale and you're trying to grow jobs, like fundamentally, what is every politician trying to do? They're
Jobs,
trying to
jobs,
grow
jobs, to quote
jobs.
Pelosi.
Yeah, it's jobs, jobs, jobs. And so I think that when you start talking about that and the fact that you're hurting these companies in the international market, like Cisco, Cisco's everywhere.
Cisco built the Great Firewall of China.
I'm not very proud of that as an American.
It's true.
Technologically, I'm proud of it, but socially, I'm not. So I think that turn the corner might be a little much, but I think that it's really showing the effect that Snowden's leaks have had because he's just been able to keep this at the front of everyone's mind for
Well, him, the
the better
Guardian, and
part.
the Washington Post.
Well, yeah, okay, yes, but his slow dissemination of information over the last 6 to 9 months has really been the reason why we're even still talking about it and why it's even still such a big deal.
I feel like
Because
it's all we've talked about this year.
yeah, because if he had just back when the first stuff started to leak out to the Guardian, if he had given the Guardian everything right then everyone would have freaked out and probably would have forgotten about it by now.
Well, what I think is also telling is you have two voices within the vast infrastructure of the United States government talking about restrictions. That ruling by Judge Leon, right now it's of almost no significance because it's a very low-level judge that doesn't necessarily have the amount of clout. But that can keep getting kicked up and keep getting kicked up and keep getting kicked up, and it could end up in the Supreme Court. And that's where I think it becomes significant because it's going to keep getting appealed until it gets to that point. And the Supreme Court has a history in this country of telling the government, you need to change some things. We also have an interesting history of the government then saying, we don't really care. Dating back to the administration of Andrew Jackson. Okay, you can say what you want sometimes, but they may not really care. So
Mr. Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it.
Right. So good luck with that. They've been kind of breaking the law anyways. But they think they're justified in it. They think it's national security, and so they're going to do whatever it takes for national security. Well, at some point...
Yeah, but at some point that's not actually good for national security.
Well, it's not good for national security, and it's not good for the country. Because it basically does look like at this point that the Constitution, in terms of national defense, has become meaningless. And that is not a positive thing. We make the claim of having these like high and mighty values that we stand for, and we talk about freedom. And when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she talked a lot about internet freedom, and we see that our internet freedom is vastly limited. There was some news story I read about, and this is pulling way out of context, so don't read too much into this, but like anti-government posts disappearing from things, and yeah, it starts to get a little weird.
Right.
And it certainly, if you don't care about the Constitution, fine, but let's look at the economy, right? Google, the largest kind of cloud service entity in the world, at least in a consumer facing capacity.
Well, and you also have Apple, who has their whole iCloud servers,
which is quite literally the world's most valuable corporation,
and Facebook,
which is up there as well,
owns everyone's souls.
A billion people are on there. All of
more
these,
than a billion. It's like 1.2 now, I think. Yeah. So yeah, the bottom line is always the dollar. And
well, I mean, sure. I don't. It's either the Constitution or the dollar, depending on what party you listen to. But
right,
either way,
in this case, it's both.
But in this case, it's both.
So
the Constitution has been violated. Actually, this sounds almost like a report off Fox News. The Constitution has clearly been violated. That's a problem. The U.S. economy could potentially and might already being impacted. That's a problem.
That's a major problem.
That's a major problem. The tech industry
Fourth
is kind
Amendment, I mean, like, that's part of, like, it's one of them original ones.
I mean, look, and I get that, most of our tech manufacturing is done in China, but the tech industry is key. Some of, at least three or four of the United States' largest corporations in terms of value, as large as ExxonMobil or General Motors. Is Apple, is IBM, okay, tech company, and Google, tech company. Okay, this is not like, oh, weird nerds in their basement. That's Electronic Arts and Activision. We're still the weird nerds in the basement. But these are major players in the global economy that could potentially be hurt by this unconstitutional actions by the United States government.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Once again, I don't think we've necessarily turned the corner, but it definitely makes you feel more confident about I guess just America in general when these companies are willing to totally steal. Oh, you wanted to talk about this thing over here? No.
We're
much
more
talk
interested
about NSA.
We're going to talk about NSA.
Actually needs to be talked about, not how your healthcare website launch was horrible.
It sounds like Obama got taken for a ride in that meeting. Like, I think there was this was like in the Roosevelt room of the White House. This is one of those things where you usually get those canned statements about we had a very productive conversation. Dude got taken for a ride.
Well, remember that early on in his first term, he invited a lot of these same, not necessarily these specific people, but people in these positions. Yeah, Schmidt, and I think that he was the only one, honestly, of that list.
Yeah, it was like Jobs and a few
right, because it was Jobs and everyone else, and Mark Zuckerberg might have been there, maybe, probably.
Yeah, but
not.
it was Sheryl Sandberg in this meeting, not Zuck.
But anyways, so he had these same people, and they're like his kind of friends in corporate America, and I'm sure that he listened.
Well, these are also, like, you bring an excellent point. Like, these corporations and these people on these corporations are Obama people. This is not like oil execs or, the auto industry. The auto industry is his people, but like the tech industry are his fundraising people, right?
Well, and more so than that, they're his base.
They're his base. And when your base uses the quote, "What the hell are you doing?" These are some of the
I always wish I could say to a president,
what the hell are you doing? It's something, if I was ever in range for president, I would say, which is possibly why I would never get in range for president. What the hell are you doing? Like, what the hell? But honest to God, what the hell are you doing? Right. This is, like, I have tried to take as logical a stance as I can on this story, right? But it keeps getting worse. And you are at the point where you have evidence that you have tapped into the backbone of the internet to intercept data that they couldn't get legally from the corporations that are already getting enough of a bad name for all the legal cooperation they are doing. What the hell are you doing? Stop!
Luckily, they are listening to. He's got to listen.
God, no.
He has to. He doesn't have to do anything. No, he doesn't have to do anything.
Oh, sure. Yeah, he sit in the room and go, okay, great.
Right, but he has to. I don't know.
So, anyways, speaking of has to do something, what's up with Target?
Yeah, they were target of a major.
Ooh, I like what you did there.
Major issue. A few weeks ago, we posted a podcast with the title "Happy Black Friday Eve." Now, obviously, we were being amusing, but that doesn't change the fact that Black Friday, that massive shopping day after Thanksgiving, is a big deal. Welcome to America.
America.
No, we can't afford the royalties on that one.
That was less than 30 seconds.
Well, it turns out this Black Friday was a little more dangerous to shoppers than they realized, at least those who shopped at Target. The Wall Street Journal reported, not yesterday, last Wednesday, that the retail giant Target was hit with a major theft of customers' credit card and debit card data captured in stores during the Black Friday weekend. Not too much is known at the moment about the theft, but it is currently under Secret Service investigation. Sources report that the security breach began just after Thanksgiving and lasted until possibly December the 15th.
Ouch.
So my question is, what do we expect will be the fallout from this incident of serious security failure? The number that's missing in there is 40 million. Everyone's heard of this at this point. 40 million people have been affected by this. 40 million different credit cards.
That's a lot.
And this isn't online shopping. This
This is
is
in
in
store.
store.
I mean, to me, this is one of the worst credit card breaches ever. As far as I
yeah.
can, I mean, this is worse than PSN. I mean, this is a huge hack because, I mean, think of the scale of that, right? Every Black Friday, that's essentially every Black Friday shopper that went to Target.
Well,
Um,
it's more so than that though, because they're saying that they don't know how long.
oh wow,
That's why they say December 15th, because
sure.
they're saying that from Black Friday to December 15th, if it's possible that they stole up to 40 million credit card numbers.
So
Um,
my question is, how is Target notifying people if they've potentially been hit, or is there any notification system at all? Do we know?
as far as I'm aware, there's not a notification system. However, I do know, this is anecdotal and I don't have a source for this, is that Chase and Bank of America have limited the amount of debit card purchases per day, like how much money you can spend on your debit card per day, in order to prevent people from taking advantage. So that basically, if someone decides to cash in on a bunch of Chase numbers in one day, Chase doesn't just totally and completely lose, well, its company.
Sure, because I'm thinking about it. I've probably been to Target in that
I
date range,
I have been to Target in that date range.
so I'm wondering.
Target like 5 minutes from my apartment.
So, like, hey everyone, watch your credit cards because that's huge.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna be bad.
And this is one of those, like, this isn't the fault of people with faulty passwords. This is one of those, like, how does the average?
And they think this is an inside job. They don't think that it was an outside hack. They just the level, because it was basically, so how this worked was, and this is my understanding of how it worked. There was a man in the middle attack, but it was between the pin machine
Okay.
and the actual point of sale system. There was
Okay.
something that intercepted the number in the middle.
Okay. So this is we're talking about a hardware hack.
It's no, it's software, but it is taking it before it gets rung through,
Okay.
takes that information and pulls it out.
So yeah, I mean,
That's my
that would almost
understanding.
have to be inside.
Yeah, and that it's software in the actual pin pad swipey thing.
Fascinating.
So yeah,
Uh,
very technical term for that. It's the pin pad swipey thing.
it's part of the point of sale system.
It is part of the point of sale system, but
That
yes,
is- but
I mean,
what does the average consumer do? What for
with
this?
Target, there's nothing you can do.
I mean, this is one of those corporate, another story on corporate responsibility with your information, because this isn't like like I was saying, this isn't
Well,
because
this is much more like when Citibank, what was this, like 3 or 4 years ago now, when they accidentally had some credit card numbers that were stored in, or no, it wasn't credit card numbers, it was Social Security numbers that were stored in plain text.
plain text. Yeah.
That, like, someone hacked into their system and went, oh, we'll take all of these. And it was like 2 million people had their Social Security numbers stolen in that hack.
Yeah.
So it's corporate responsibility. With you have this massive amount of data, you need to make sure that it's not getting stolen.
And also just it's beyond even just data management, it's employee management, because if this is an inside job, you need better fallbacks for understanding, like, what is going on with my employees, because IT just can't be a black hole, right? I know, everywhere I've worked that had IT, it's like IT does some magic and things happen. And so, like, I knew the IT level password for District of Columbia Public Schools. Now, how on earth does one teacher know the IT level passwords for all computers in District of Columbia Public Schools? How do I end up with that information? Because it was the only way to install software, and IT wasn't going to come do the software installation, so they just explained to me how to do it. Now, that's bad security.
Oh, yeah.
So, speaking of corporate responsibility, YouTube is cracking down on many video game-related channels that show footage along with commentary. Okay? These are generally termed, quote-unquote, Let's Plays, and are very much kind of like what we did for the console launches. They play games, they talk about them while they're playing them, and they post the content up on YouTube. And in this case, these people are trying to make money off their channels. Which I guess theoretically we're also trying to do. Hey,
yes, we're trying to make money.
We're trying to make money. There is an argument to be made that this material is fair use, as it's both a transformative act, aka they're playing the game, rather than like watching a movie, right? So watching a movie doesn't change each time you do it. Every time you play a game, it's different. So you can argue that it is a transformative act, which is allowed in the DMCA. Also, it is very clearly being used for criticism.
Right. It's not like they're just sitting there playing the game.
But even if they are, like they're doing like a Let's Play for a walkthrough, that's still involved in kind of games journalism. Okay?
Right,
so
okay.
Both of these fall under DMCA idea of fair use. However, YouTube, a Google company, has been cracking down on these channels through their automated content ID system, which roots out copyrighted material and either switches the revenue from the person who made the video over to the copyright holder, thus depriving people of their income, or forcing the videos to be pulled down, which if that happens too many times, your account gets permabanned.
No, I think it's 3 times.
It's 3 strikes and you're out. Yeah.
3 strikes and you're out. You're like, your account is deleted. You have to start over.
Right. Which is terrible if you've like built up a brand, right, around your name.
And like all of your subscribers, everything goes away.
Right. And so like we follow this guy Tobuscus, who's hilarious and slightly insane. But imagine like, Tobuscus is one of the folks that's going to be at risk for this. And there's an extra wrinkle to this, okay? This is where it gets sort of complicated. So channels associated with major YouTube partner networks, such as Machinima, these are known as managed partners. They are not getting the takedown request. The big guys not getting the takedown request. It is the small, independent YouTubers, that which YouTube is built on, what are called affiliate partners. These are the ones without the means to defend themselves, and these are the ones that are getting the takedown requests. For me, this story comes down to the video game publishers and the rights holders for the music in games want to hold on to the money and the power of who can view their stuff when. And that's why they're doing this. So Jimmy, where do you stand on this issue?
So wait, it comes down to that.
Well, it comes down to the publishers, and a lot of this isn't actually the game publishers. A lot of times it's the publishers of the music that's used in games, where it gets really complicated. They're trying to hold on to money and power as ever. And they want to decide who can show this when. So sometimes really shady things happen, like only negative reviews are getting these takedown things, and not positive reviews. Like that, okay.
Right.
Or like, if someone with a positive review breaks a street date, they don't care. But if someone with a negative street date breaks, oh, that's a big problem. Stuff like that. It gets shady.
Yeah, that is pretty shady. The problem is that YouTube was getting vilified by the RIAA and MPAA because they kind of had just submit your requests and
sure,
then we'll take it down. And they said, no, that's not enough.
And then they had to pay Viacom $1 billion.
And then that's when they implemented Content ID. So, yes, right now, YouTube is operating under you're guilty until proven innocent.
But the appeals process is a mess at best.
Yeah.
And the problem here is this isn't a movie, and this isn't a television show, okay? This is something with a very strong fair use argument, but it's kind of in this legal gray area where there's not like a specific court case where we can point to and go, this says Let's Plays are fine. Again,
Right.
there's not a specific court case that where we can point to and say, Let's Plays are wrong. So, like, we do them. And I'm hoping as we get our gear better, we're going to be able to do more of them.
Right.
There's some gear we need to purchase to make that happen. But we're hoping to, kind of expand our content. So we could also be falling further and further into this trap because we're going to be using a lot of game footage.
And
so
I
it's
think
just
that
not as cut and dry as it was with Viacom.
But it comes no, and I agree with that. But that's where this Content ID thing came from.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's not specifically targeted at video games. It just
But
happens
this crackdown seems to be targeted at video games specifically.
Yes. Oh no, I think that you're right. But
the channel with the most number of subscribers on YouTube is a gaming channel.
Wait, which one's that?
Machinima, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's Machinima or it's Total Biscuit, but either way, like the biggest channels are gaming channels.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So I don't know. I have a problem with this one because I understand what YouTube is trying to accomplish with its Content ID system. However, I think that pulling down, especially this nonsense about their managed partners. I'm sure it's not as shady as it looks, in that their managed partners probably have some kind of notification system set up where they're told, hey, you need to not do that. So change it or we're going to take it down or something. I don't know. Like, there's got to be something with something about the relationship with managed partners is why it works out the way it does.
Part of what's up with the managed partners thing is the assumption is that with the managed partners don't get the same sort of scrutiny through Content ID because the assumption is that the management level of the partners is what's going to be managing the copyright issues. That they're going to be taking care of that for their affiliate channels. And so Google doesn't worry about them because they have this body that's managing them. Whereas the affiliates, since they don't have that agreement, are getting the bulk of it because they are just fully subjected to Content ID.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes sense.
And this is, leading to people losing their money and losing their ability to have an income. And
because really successful YouTube channels just make tons and tons and tons of money.
Tons and tons of money for internet streaming, yeah.
No, okay, but we're not talking
peanuts.
they make 5 cents and they're annoyed that they're not going to get their 5 cents. No, I mean they have huge fan bases and they can make
enough to afford studios
money.
And employees. And I mean this is real money. This is not.
We're not talking about monopoly money. We're not talking about petty cash.
This isn't jerks alone.
This is a business.
This isn't jerks alone in their basement. These are real businesses with real studios and real facilities. And
so I don't know what the solution is though. That's part of my problem. Do I think it's wrong? Yes, but I don't know what the solution is.
Well,
so that's why I'm hesitant to say that what Google and YouTube specifically are doing are wrong because.
Well, it's hard because if the ruling doesn't go the way of the Let's Players, YouTube's in for a lot to get sued again like they were with Viacom. Okay?
Right.
YouTube is consistently one of Google's least profitable properties because the revenue model is just really difficult. Okay?
Right.
And it's also really expensive to do. We think of YouTube as being dirt cheap because it's dirt cheap for us. It's free. But the amount of servers that they need and the bandwidth that they need to put out, it's crazy. So YouTube's really expensive for Google, and it doesn't bring in that much money. Okay, it's kind of a loss leader to get you plugged into the, Google.
But it's also one of the most successful, if not the most successful video sharing site on the internet.
Absolutely. In terms of video sharing, absolutely. I mean, Vimeo, the other ones, some folks haven't even heard of. Okay? It's a hugely successful brand. It's a great brand for Google. But if they get hung out to dry on this, it could cost them $1 billion again, like with Viacom.
Oh, easily.
Easily. So they don't want to be caught with their pants down on this issue. But at the same time, if the issue is they crack down on these people that are some of the biggest channels on YouTube, right now, there's nowhere else for them to go. But I think as Twitch.tv, which is actually where we stream our stuff, which is this kind of gaming-focused branch of Justin TV. Right now, they don't have the infrastructure to really withstand the traffic, okay?
Right.
Things take Twitch down all the time. But as Twitch builds up, these channels, as they get more and more pressure from YouTube, can jump over to Twitch. But they're going to lose a lot of subscribers in that jump. And so it's better for all parties, theoretically, that everyone stays on YouTube.
Well, it's certainly better for Google.
Well, I don't know. It isn't better for Google if this
term.
turns out to be illegal. If this turns out to not be a fair use exemption, they are really hurting. But in terms of discoverability for the Let's players...
But I really do think that it should be a fair use exemption.
I think in the long run, that's what's going to bear out.
I think it falls under that. Like, realistically, it is criticism.
I mean,
like,
look,
transformative act that you might be able to argue that it's not really transformative because you're playing the game as designed.
Right.
And so, I don't know.
But also, I think, okay, part of what... Very few games am I okay with just watching it on YouTube. Because that's not what a game is. Right? To me, it's never as much fun to watch your friend play a game as it is to play the game yourself.
Well, unless you're not a gamer,
Right, but then you weren't going to buy that game anyways.
Right. Well, but I've heard anecdotes of people that watch like BioShock Infinite, for example.
I vomit on first person games. It's the only way I've watched BioShock Infinite. It's true.
Yeah, so that's.
But the criticism angle is why I let us do it, right? Because I think that criticism angle is clear, and so I think
we're also not going to play the whole thing all the way through on one.
Right, and that's also just a dick thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, you wanted to see Skyrim Elder Scrolls Completionist? Well, here's a 192-hour video. Part 1.
Why not?
2.
I mean, they're out there. They're considered walkthroughs rather than Let's Plays.
Right, but walkthroughs the way. I mean, they're showing you where things are in the game.
Right. It's still to me, it's criticism.
It's criticism because usually walkthrough videos are accompanied by text describing what they're doing.
Sure. Wait, but even not. They're still talking about the game in a meaningful capacity. They're not just saying, and here, just watch. But even, to me, even just watch, it's transformative. But look, we're not legal scholars, and nor are we Google, so we're not necessarily going to settle this issue. But Google may just be killing us with robots soon anyways.
Problem solved.
So if you've been listening to our show for any length of time, you will know that Sydney doesn't like robots, which is why our next story will really scare her. Google has acquired Boston Dynamics, who brought us such terrors as the walking humanoid robots and animal robots that run.
Like a cheetah.
One cheetah. I think one was called Eater, an acronym.
The cheetah will run like 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The robot version.
So Boston Dynamics is one of the robotics companies that works in conjunction with the Pentagon. And while Google has stated they have no intention of becoming a military contractor on their own, all existing military contracts will be honored. The question on everyone's mind is, what does Google want with Boston Dynamics? Robots that can find you things? What do you think?
Skynet.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's right.
Sorry, that's the logical place to go with this. They are a giant web service that has branches all across the world and interconnects everything.
Right, and so here's the future. So you've got Andy Rubin. We've talked about this before on the show. We've got Andy Rubin, who's working former Android chief, who's been working specifically on robotics projects. They also purchased Shaft. I think it's called Shaft, the company that just won the DARPA Robotics Challenge.
They bought like 5 robotics companies.
Right, they've bought a whole bunch of really
Boston
successful.
Dynamics was just the biggest one.
The biggest one, and then the news. Today was Shaft, and that was that was a company out of Japan that they recently bought. And this also drive to buy up a lot of robotics companies. Okay, so you've got a company that's in robotics, that's in mapping, and that has a quasi self-aware algorithm of all the world's information.
It also knows where a bunch of you are.
And has imaging satellites. This is just Skynet. Because we use the thing that Google knows. So if Google knows and Google has robots, then we can simply start using the phrase Google does. And what will Google do?
Or the other thing is that they could use their robots to, drive the Street View cars.
Yeah. Well, and they're working on they're working on self-driving cars anyways. They could just have autonomous Street View cars.
I mean, Google's just reached that point in their existence where it's sometimes easier to just buy companies that do the things you want to do than to try to develop in-house.
What? That's what Apple's been doing for years. Where do you think Siri came from? Where do you think OS 10 came from?
Well, and so is Google's been doing for years. I mean, Google bought Android.
Right. But and Google bought YouTube. Anyone remember Google Video? That was a mess.
Oh, that was terrible.
But, I mean, Google, I think, does a little more of developing in-house than Apple does in terms of software. Gmail was an in-house product.
Yeah. No, and as was, Google Calendar, Google Plus.
Yeah, a lot of the Google services. Apple has gotten really good at, you want to do something, just buy it, which is pretty smart when you have the money. But partly my question is, can a robot Google learn to love?
My question is, do androids dream of electric sheep?
What do androids dream of?
My android doesn't dream.
My android watches.
Droid.
Droid
does.
So, Google owns robots. Google also owns the internet?
Yes. Google and lots
terrifying.
of other people. So, in our terrifying story of the NSA and Google owning everything, Trey, have you ever wondered who actually owns the physical infrastructure that comprises the internet?
I just assumed it was the Masons.
We're talking about tubes here, okay? You can't drive a Big Mac truck through it, okay? Well, according to a recent report, the likes of Google, Facebook, and Microsoft are making huge purchases of the fiber that makes up the actual infrastructure that is the internet.
Yeah, Google's been doing that for years.
Oh, yes. I mean, it...
That's how they can bring you Google Fiber. It's so cheap. We've already got it all.
They're like, oh, we already bought it. We're just going to bring fiber the last mile to you. That's really the problem.
It's sunk cost at this point.
So the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Google, who has spent years accumulating its own fiber, owns more than 100,000 miles of fiber around the world. And so, to give you a point of comparison, Sprint, who's a telecom company, they only own 40,000 miles of fiber. In addition, Facebook, Amazon, and Google have all funded new underwater cables connecting North America to either Asia or to Europe. And Microsoft is also currently funding a connection from North America to Asia. So in many ways, the content companies are attempting to control their own destiny to ensure the content between their data centers and the end user is as ideal as possible, or at least that's what it seems.
Sure.
The result is telcos feeling threatened by the very companies they consider clients. So Trey, do you think that this is a good thing for the companies moving packets all around the world to own the infrastructure, or is it just too much control in too few hands?
Well, I hate the telcos. Quite simply, I hate the telcos.
Yeah, I mean, anything that makes Comcast not have power anymore, I'm kind of okay with.
But this isn't necessarily Comcast that this is pulling from. This is the backbone providers that this is taking, and these those are corporations we don't hear about and don't really think about.
That's true.
It's been key to Google's strategy for a long time, and because they need distributed fiber, because distributed fiber is how the cloud actually works.
Well, it's how all their data centers work.
Right. Well, because the cloud isn't a cloud; it's places. It's just your data in multiple locations synced between servers across the world.
It was also how Amazon's.
I mean, it's how all web
server.
services work.
Yeah.
Is this idea of distributed data. And so anything that makes distributed data cheaper and faster is certainly in the interest of those corporations. In terms of, for us, it depends on what they do with it. It's just like anybody else. If the backbone remains free and open for the service,
care who owns it.
We don't care who owns it. If this is just a way for Google to save money, fine. I'd rather my services stay free. I really am glad I don't have to pay for iCloud anymore. MobileMe was a pain in the butt to pay for. It wasn't necessarily worth $100 a year, although I paid it.
Look, that's you made your choices.
So to me, I think it's just too early to know. The telcos have certainly done a bad job of it.
Right. Well, and a little part of me thinks that we're at the point, at least in North America, where the telcos need to not be responsible for it, and we should just make like the government responsible for it, in the same way the government is responsible for like roads.
Right. Sure, but good luck with that.
Well, yeah, but so TxDOT is responsible for the roads in Texas, and
yes, but Georgia Power, which is a private corporation, is responsible for electricity delivery. So we have two different models for this. And right now it's been leaning on the other model.
Right, but this is, yeah. But if we look at the two models, electricity delivery is currently, at least if I'm going to use Texas as the example, we are right about at capacity in Texas. We don't actually have enough power.
I'm not going to argue that it's the best model. I'm just arguing we're enough far down this road that it's pretty clear where this is going. And I don't think you're going to be able to do a nationwide. What are you going to do? Federalize all fiber? Because that's what you'd have to do.
Yeah, it's true.
Because what are you going to You're going to do it on a state by state basis, and so that means the South and West of the United States will not have government fiber, and the North, the Northeast, and the Northwest will.
What you're forgetting though is that Georgia Power used to be a state. I mean, it used to be like Florida Power and Light was the state actually funded energy company.
Right, and they got spun out.
And then they got spun out, and that was part of deregulation in the 80s.
Right, but name an industry that's been deregulated and then underegulated successfully, off the top of your head.
Well, you're saying was deregulated. The internet was never regulated.
Right. But that's the problem. I think we're just too far down this road. It would be a beautiful dream, right? And that's how, Hong Kong and South Korea can have such amazing speeds.
But also then, I mean, if you have the U.S. government building the connectors between here and Europe, all the easier for them to spy on you with.
So I was just thinking the current environment, you can't do it. Something else you probably shouldn't do in the current environment is take strange pictures of your children and post them to Snapchat.
Trey, it disappears.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, Snapchat. An app like that will bring you sorrow. So we've been talking for months about how even though a Snapchat only exists for a few seconds...
There's air quotes there.
Yeah. With just a mere screenshot, your troublesome photo can be anywhere in a matter of seconds. This happened to a mother and her 14-year-old daughter. Here's the scenario. Mother and 14-year-old daughter are topless in a hot tub. Perfectly acceptable behavior in the privacy of your own home, which is where they were. Okay. The 13-year-old daughter, who was not in the hot tub, takes a picture of the two of them. The mother orders the photo be deleted. Instead,
the mother's not a fool.
The 13-year-old daughter sends the photo out via Snapchat. It goes viral through a couple of local area high schools, and now the prosecutor's office in Wentzville, Mississippi, Missouri.
No.
MO. What's MO?
Missouri.
Missouri. There we go. In Wentzville, MO is pressing charges against the mother for child endangerment, saying she should have known better. This is a hugely unfortunate situation. Does it finally show us Snapchat's true colors?
Yes.
This is why Snapchat is a terrible idea. Or at least how Snapchat kind of knows how it gets used, right? I've heard arguments, it's about how ephemeral media can be. These pictures don't have meaning beyond the moment, man, and we just don't want them lasting
Snapchat
forever.
Is for teenagers to send topless and naked pictures of each other to each other.
Sure. And this can get you in trouble because in the end, when you send... Honestly, this isn't actually a new media.
The real world.
This isn't actually a new media problem. New media just accentuates this issue. When you sent naked pictures to your boyfriend in college, he was probably showing. He could have just as easily showed them to your his roommate, or made a photocopy of them and post them all over campus. You have no idea. Okay? Anytime you put compromising material of yourself out there at any point, digitally or otherwise, it is probably a terrible decision. There are whole websites on the internet dedicated to sex films that people never knew happened. Okay? This is just don't do it. Don't do it.
And the question of whether you should or should not do it, the answer is always no. Now, if you want to, let's be clear. If you want to use Snapchat for the ephemeral things and so you're not trying to keep up with all this, for lack of a better term, crap, then yes, use Snapchat for that, but understand that it is not going to just magically disappear.
Sure, it'll notify you when a screenshot is taken,
but
one screenshot can ruin your life and could land this woman in jail. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Just think before you send. Just think before you send.
Think before you Snapchat.
No, not just Snapchat. Text, anything. Okay?
Email, snail mail.
Also, potentially this could reveal how much is saved on Snapchat servers. Because if they get a court
order, that's what I'll be curious about.
They get a court order for this material, can Snapchat dig it up? And if so, just stop using Snapchat.
Oh, that would totally sink Snapchat's entire model.
Right. I mean, I'm not too big on Snapchat's model as it is. Clearly.
Turns out, maybe they should have sold for $3 billion.
Yeah, get out while the getting's good. And yeah, I feel really bad for this woman who's caught in an unfortunate situation. But look, what happens on the internet, the line between the internet and the real world doesn't exist. The internet is the real world.
It does is just wrong.
They're just wrong. The internet is the real world. And what you do on the internet, whether it's bullying, whether it's private pornography, which is all sexting is just private porn instead of public porn.
Interesting terminology there, Trey.
It's what I mean. What?
No, but you're right. No, I agree with you.
It's just private pornography. Whatever you're doing, there isn't actually this line. The bits are no different than something that happens in the real world. This is just real world with a lot better paper trail. A lot better paper trail.
And a lot easier to copy.
Yes.
Disperse.
So something you could be dispersing your naked pictures on is this week's gadget.
The wonderful Consumer Electronics Show is approaching, and with it, teasers of the gadgets to come in 2014. Among bigger and better TVs that are also curved strangely.
They don't care.
You didn't care last year either.
Nope. That's one of the reasons I decided we're just not going to CES, because I looked at the amazing 8K screen and I went, this looks like garbage. Garbage.
There will also be more wearable tech, but there's also one oddity that seems to stand out. An all-in-one PC from LG running Chrome OS. It is called the Chrome Base, and the 21.5-inch all-in-one contains a 1920 by 1080 IPS display.
So a 1080p screen, sure.
A Intel Celeron processor,
So it's crap then.
2 gigs of RAM, and 16 gigs of memory.
Sounds like a computer I built in 2000.
Yeah, but it's a pretty standard low level, which is still plenty to run Chrome's basic requirement, Chrome OS's basic requirements, and some tabs. Now, the really interesting thing is that the device only contains an Ethernet port.
Well, that we know of. This is all
yeah.
leaked. This is not a confirmed announcement from LG.
Yeah, this is all leaked. So, LG seems to be targeting a kiosk environment with the Chrome base in retail, education, and hotels, where a full-fledged version of Windows is wasted. So, Trey, we both know that this thing is worthless. Can you think of anything else that would make it less worthless other than a boat anchor?
Okay, so the only thing that is potentially interesting with this thing, in terms of a consumer application, sure, kiosks, real sexy. I don't care. I don't understand what makes a good kiosk. I've never found one I liked.
I'm sure the answer is
It's cheap and lightweight. Whatever, I don't care. In terms of consumer, the only thing that is possibly interesting is this has an HDMI in. So it can just function as a monitor.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't put that in there. There's an HDMI out and an HDMI in.
Okay, so what makes that interesting is you could use it as your monitor for your main Windows desktop. And if all you need to do is surf the web or use a couple web services, you can just instant boot into Chrome OS, do those little lightweight tasks, and you're done. Now, I'm not going to pay that much more to do that. So for me, the only thing that can make this thing interesting if it's like $250.
Well,
which
and
is
it
not
very
gonna
well could be though.
No,
because
not with that screen. Look, that screen is almost $200 of an IPS display.
Yeah,
that screen
it does have
itself
an
is
Intel
almost
processor in it,
and it's got a for real piece of junk, but a for real processor. There's no way this thing's coming out for less than $300. So I'm quite literally, this thing is, in terms of a consumer application,
dead on arrival.
Dead on arrival, because if you're gonna get a desktop as opposed to a cheap little laptop, you probably have more ambitions for it than surfing the web, right? The only reason I have a desktop is because I need something that can power all of this streaming stuff. Okay.
The reason I have a desktop is so I can photo edit and do 3D.
Right. And I have a laptop that should be a desktop for my video editing. Okay.
Right.
Or else, most of my just dumb consumption stuff is switched rapidly to my iPad.
Right.
But if you're at a desktop environment that isn't a kiosk, you probably have more ambitions than just the web, right? Generally
you will
speaking.
always find it, and it'll make you very angry. And yeah.
Right. So something you won't be able to do on that Chromebook, or it's not even a Chromebook, a Chrome Top. Chrome Top. We'll call it a Chrome Top. Is this week's Space.
Space, a final frontier.
So, our space story today may have the mapping gurus at Google turning green with envy. Last Thursday, the European Space Agency successfully launched its Gaia satellite skyward. Gaia is packing a 1 billion pixel camera. So that would be a 1 gigapixel. Yeah, 1 gigapixel, camera. Yeah. And its goal is to map our galaxy, looking for planets, asteroids, and other objects of celestial interest, while also charting the location of known objects. Gaia, as it turns out, is very thorough, and it will create a map. It will create a map with each star in the Milky Way over 7 times and accumulate a petabyte.
7D times.
Huh?
7D times.
7D times, 7D times, and accumulate 1 petabyte of data during its mission. Of course, what I really want to know is, does it have Street View?
I'm sure Google will get it.
Yeah. This is just, kind of fascinating. What can you do with space?
Petabyte. That's 1,000 terabytes, right? Well, 1,024 terabytes, right?
Right.
Jesus, that's a lot of storage. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking in terms of the scale of data centers, no. But in terms of one map that is a 1 petabyte,
Yeah.
good luck loading that thing.
Just like, and the other thing, I hear 1 billion pixel camera. I think take that, pixel peepers. Oh well, my camera is 24 megapixels and yours is only 23, so mine's so much
18?
better.
Look, when it comes to actual consumer cameras, the megapixel war is over. When it comes to mapping space,
This is my answer. Look, my phone has 8 megapixels and this has 8 megapixels. Which one's better?
look, my phone has 42 megapixels, 41 megapixels. So which one's better?
Is it better than your 7D, which has 18 megapixels?
I mean, it depends better in what way. It has better digital zoom
Right.
than my 7D.
That's fair. It does not have better actual zoom.
It doesn't have any. It is effectively no actual zoom. And all it has is digital zoom. But megapixels have applications, and this is one of them. And I think actually the Lumia 1020 is an example of the megapixels war done right, because all it's ever trying to do is produce a 5 megapixel image. It's just you can pick a lot of different 5 megapixel images, which is kind of what this is doing too.
Anyways, this will be really awesome, and I hope that they make it like NASA does with their when NASA does the space shots of the Earth. I hope that they do the same thing where they open it up so everyone can look at it.
Here's what I want. Here's what I want to happen with this
high-res
technology.
TIFFs.
I want a 360 degree projector with a Kinect. Okay, so I can look at a star and I can go with my hands, and it zooms.
You want the
I want a
Minority
planetarium.
Report thing.
Yeah. I want this.
Zoom
I want
on
like
that.
the straight up Minority Report display. This is all possible with current technology, right? You take this image, you project it like a planetarium, and then I can like point at a star, and I can zoom in, and I can see it. That's what I want. That's Street View for the galaxy. And so now that I'm all psyched up, it brings us to a Christmas-themed last call.
Should have changed it to sleigh bells.
Yeah, I thought about that.
So if you haven't figured it out yet, it is in fact the most wonderful time of the year.
Most wonderful time of the year.
Christmas time, that is. A time for holiday parties, roasting chestnuts over an open fire, and Secret Santa.
Secret Santa!
We can't all be as lucky as Redditor NY1227, whose Secret Santa was none other than Microsoft's founder, Bill Gates.
Awesome.
Quote, Bill gifted her a stuffed cow, a donation to Heifer International in her name. although
For
it did not-
$500 that represented the cow that she got stuffed.
Oh, is that how much?
Yeah, it was $500 bucks that Heifer, the Heifer Project buys a cow for a family, and that's why she got a stuffed cow.
Oh, okay, because in her post she said it didn't say how much was donated in her name, but that there was something donated in her name.
$500.
And a travel book and a picture of Bill Gates himself with all of the contents of the box to verify that indeed it was the Bill Gates, not some schmuck Bill Gates that you look up in the phone book.
You look
some
things up in a
imitator.
phone book?
I don't know. I'm sure he's in a phone book.
No, I'm sure he's not.
Bill Gates? I'm sure he
My dad isn't in the phone book.
Okay, good point. So it turns out that Bill Gates really likes giving his money away continuously. So Trey, how would you feel after you found out that your Secret Santa was none other than Bill Gates?
I've heard a lot of cynical talk about this, right? That Bill Gates, he didn't give her that much. Who cares?
That's not actually the point.
That's not actually the point. And also, this was like a dumb publicity stunt. But he has the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'm not sure he needs dumb charitable publicity stunts. He has this huge reputation for giving away billions.
Exactly.
So I think this honestly just paints this picture of this kind of this guy who's become kind of cool in his old age. He used to be a huge jerk, but he's mellowed out to the point where he's like sending Christmas presents to random people and just being kind of cute about it. It's like he hand wrote an inscription in the book and looked up her interest and how much she wanted to travel and this really thoughtful charitable gift. and then included a picture so that she could know like it was the real Bill Gates. Like, this is just adorable. I'm sorry.
She said in her post, like, at the bottom, like, I've gotten, questions of whether or not I can, I would do an interview because this is, like, apparently blown up. No.
No, he did a nice thing for this kind of cool woman, and she wanted to find a way to say thank you, and this was how she could do it.
She wrote an open thank you letter to Bill Gates on the internet.
I mean, he did acknowledge that it was really him. But he didn't want to talk about it because this is,
his thing was, yeah, I did that.
And presumably someone had Bill Gates as their Secret Santa selection. So Bill Gates got some random present from some random, bless him.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. I refuse to be in the holiday spirit.
Okay, new question. What would you give Bill Gates?
What would I give Bill Gates?
Secret
An Apple
Santa.
II.
I was thinking an iPad, the tablet that he wished
I would give him my Apple II.
Okay.
I would absolutely give him my Apple II.
It doesn't run Excel though.
No, I mean that's the point. No, there is a version of Excel out. There are.
Oh. I thought it was the Macintosh.
No, yeah, you're right. It was the
original
Macintosh. Excuse me. It was the original Macintosh. There wasn't Excel. In the app, I would give him my Apple II. I would give him some like weird vintage tech thing, just to make him laugh.
Like
That's
the
what
Apple
I do.
II.
Like the Apple II. Or, a mouse signed by Woz. Or, something weird like that. And on that note, it's time to end. Programming note. Sorry that this episode is going up on Monday. Or probably
it's going to be Tuesday.
It's going to be Tuesday by the time this thing goes up.
Merry Christmas Eve.
We had major technical issues. Like, the show is edited on a MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro's hard drive got corrupted. Another show I do lost all of its audio through an amazing glitch on the board. My MacBook Pro was unable to install Windows, which we needed to create a mobile rig, so I had to come back from where I worked back to the studio to do, like, it's complicated.
Why Sydney is not on the show tonight.
That's why Sydney's not on the show tonight. Like, is mess. So, we're sorry about that. 2, there will be episodes in your feeds, both for the Thursday after Christmas and the Thursday after New Year's. They will not be regular shows. This Thursday, in a couple days, you'll get an episode that is our tech predictions for next year.
We'll sum up our predictions from last year, see how we did. And
wasn't good, wasn't pretty.
I don't think any of us did very well at all.
No, and then we'll do our predictions for 2014, and then in kind of a reverse, because you think predictions for the new year, we're going to do our game of the year, device of the year, and story of the year to air on January 2nd, and we will be back for a regular episode. I guess that's January 9th. There may be a CES special in there or not. It kind of depends on what comes out of CES. We will not be at CES because we realize investing $3,500 in looking at TVs that I don't care about just doesn't.
Watching Trey do the no, you're holding your arm wrong.
I will cut that PR person.
I'm holding it wrong. It's my hand.
I will cut that PR. Like, oh my god, I was so angry. Do not tell me I am holding my finger wrong, you stupid person.
You stupid Asian man.
I am still angry about CES last year. We are not going, because quite frankly, we don't cover televisions that closely, and CES is rapidly becoming a television and vaporware show. Because Razer keeps winning, and the Razer products come out and no one actually cares. It's just not worth going. Anyways, if you have any feedback for the show, podcast at textlesscall.com.
You think that Trey is wrong and that TVs are awesome?
Yeah, sure. I'll cut you. Facebook.com/textlesscall, Pinterest.com/textlesscall, or at textlesscall on the Twitters. However you find us, we'll be seeing you on the interwebs. Merry Christmas.